I believe we were going to the premiere of the movie Panther.
And I'm black, y'all.
It was in May of 1995. We invited you to go to the Panther premiere.
That is, yep.
Blacker than black, I'm blacker than black, yo, because I'm black and I'm black.
The Panther movie was free.
The Panther movie was
but he
free.
did take me to those $2 movies.
Back in those days, I went on a date. You had a $2 movie and a $3 Happy Meal.
Because he and his friends were in that world. That's how we got to see the Panther the premiere, because someone had tickets.
I got us all VIP tickets. We are all invited.
Because they were doing managing and doing whatever. So everything was just kind of new.
We're going to show you the real deal. You got the VIP treatment.
Tonight, we are talking about love and marriage.
Relationships and marriage are a spiritual discipline where you collide with each other's wounded inner child, and you help each other heal the most broken parts of you.
I also just want to get on his insurance.
We were like walking like this.
Excuse me, bro. You're excused.
And we literally stopped at the same time, turned around and said,
Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?
A good wife and a good woman. There's a difference between having a woman and having a man. A lot of people end up having a woman and having a man.
A good man is hard to find. You follow me?
But you want to have a good man and you want to have a good woman. There's a very big difference.
To a good woman.
Say hello to my urbanites.
Hello.
Look, I'm talking about a toxic marriage. I'm talking about a healthy, good marriage.
You're a good woman for saying that. But you're a bitch because it's a lie and you're patronizing me.
Oh, good night. Good night. Hello, my urbanites. You have landed in the Urban Suite with me, Dr. Lisa LaCon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, tonight is Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2023. And you may be thinking, Doctor, why do you have a show about divorce? Because I want us to experience multiple Valentine's Day, not just one for 5 years or whatever, but the long haul. So tonight in the Urban Suite, we're going to talk about toxic talk after these messages. So stay with us. We'll be right back. You are entering the Urban Suite with Dr. Lisa LaCon. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Let's talk about mental health. All right, so I need you guys, I need you all to like, I need you to share, and I need you to subscribe. I am on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn right now, so I need you all to hop on in the Urban Suite and let me know who's here so I can give you a big shout out. But definitely share this information. This information is going to be life-saving. I'm telling you. So think about it. How do you communicate with your spouse, with your partner? So tonight I'm talking about marriages. So when I say partner, I'm talking about spouse, because if you're married, those are the only type of people that can get a divorce. You have to be married to get a divorce, right? So I'm talking specifically to married people. However, if you are single, these are some very good nuggets for you to take note and to take heed. And when we return, we're going to dig into the toxic talk and the Four Horsemen. All right. So stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Listen, we have a huge, oh my goodness. Well, maybe I shouldn't use that word huge. I don't know.
So huge, it makes me feel even smaller.
Tonight, we're going to discuss love. What is love?
I love it. What is it?
Let love, baby.
Would you rather find true love or win the lottery? Win the lottery.
What is lust?
How much do you like it?
Yes, I am back. I am back. I am back.
I'm back.
Sometimes people in the hood say Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
Did you say Valentine's? It's Valentine's. You know what?
So the definition of lust is an overwhelming sexual desire for another person.
Ooh.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? Roll in the hay.
Okay, let's talk about it.
You want to talk about it?
All right, so we are back in the Urban Suite, and this is our missing person segment. So, just in case you're not aware, every time I do my scheduled event, my show, I will highlight a missing person. So tonight is no exception. So who do we have? We have Miss Marche Green. She has been missing since February the 4th, 2023. So it's 10 days. Because it's February the 14th, 2023, from Dallas, Texas. Listen, you Dallas, Texan folks out there, I need you to pay attention to this. I need you to look at her picture. I need you to share this information. She's 14 years old. And as I read and dig into this, it's going to get very, very bizarre. She's female. Her race is Black. Her complexion is medium. She's 5'3", 150 pounds. Her hair color is black. Her hair length is long, and her eye color is brown. I need you to listen to this. Marche traveled from Louisiana to Dallas, Texas with her family to celebrate her grandmother's birthday. She was last seen at her grandmother's home located in the 2600 block of Kellogg Avenue. She was wearing pink Juicy Couture sweatpants, a pink hoodie, and rainbow-colored Crocs. Marche also has pink and black braids with clear beads. Listen to this. Circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Marche was communicating with an unknown male online and made arrangements for him to pick her up after her mother left to take her grandmother shopping. She hasn't been seen or heard from since. She's 14 years old, and it looks like apparently she met some stranger online who said that he was going to pick her up. So she met him, and she has not been seen in 10 days. She is 14 years old. I need you all to look at her picture. I need you to share this information. And if anyone has information, please contact the Dallas Police Department. And their telephone number is area code 214-671-4268. I'm going to repeat that for my iHeartRadio, my Spotify, my Amazon, as well as my Google Podcast. The telephone number for the Dallas Police Department is area code 214-671-4268, or you can contact the BAMFI, Black and Missing Foundation Incorporated, at 877-97-BAMFI. Let's bring Miss Marche Green home. And then we have a found safe. So I actually highlighted this story last week. This was very odd. She was in Tijuana, Mexico, and then the boyfriend called the mother, and someone had a ransom or something like that. So she has been found safe. Thank God. I thought that was very fishy, but let me tell you, this 14-year-old right here, Marche Green, the one I just highlighted tonight, let's keep her in prayer. Let's keep her family in prayer, because something does not seem right. And I need you all, my urbanites, I need you all to speak with your grandchildren, speak with your children, your cousins, your niece, nephews, and let them know that there are so many creeps out here lurking online, looking to prey for little girls. There's a whole lot of human trafficking out here, and she meets definitely the criteria. 14 years old. So let's pray for her so she can return home. I'm praying for a found safe. All right. So what do we have up tonight? Oh, this is interesting. Come on in. Come on in. Hello, Camille King. How are you? Good evening on this Valentine's Day. So I said something that was very interesting. I can take my glasses off now. So did you know that researchers can predict, they can predict if your marriage is going to make it or not, solely based on how you communicate with one another? It's very interesting. And it's called Toxic Talk, or the Four Horsemen. Now, it's called the Four Horsemen it's a reference to the book of Revelation and the Four Horsemen. I'm going to get into that a little later, but basically the Four Horsemen, they signify the end of days. And these traits that you will learn tonight: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. I'm going to show you what each one, how they look. And you have to be honest to see if you do it. Now, raise your hand. I've done them. I'm not immune. I have done criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. I will be the first to admit these are some of the things that I have done in the past, and I didn't think anything was wrong. And the reason why I didn't think anything was wrong, why? Because I saw someone else do that in my family or whatever, either stonewall, criticize, contempt, or be defensive. And oftentimes we inherit these communication traits by our parents. So, parents, you are the official model on how your children will communicate in a relationship. So, what we're going to do, we're going to show you clips of each one, and then I'm going to elaborate about that toxic talk. So let's show clip number one.
The first one is criticism. Take a look at this example.
Because that's your way of dealing with everything. You don't do it. You don't want to do it, you don't do it. It's like doing your chores. What are you doing to make the chore thing change? You know, like you want that to run differently where they do more chores. What kind of planning have you and time have you spent fixing it? Or you just keep telling me you want it to run differently?
And why is criticism so dangerous to a relationship?
Well, it's really a way of fueling the attack. So you state your complaint as an attack on the other person. And what you're going to get back is, you're not so perfect either, or an innocent victim kind of response. And so it's just not constructive. It winds up just, leading to an escalation of the conflict. Because you're really saying, as far as I can tell, I'm really pretty close to perfect, but you are defective. And the answer you're going to get is, you're not so perfect.
Sounds familiar?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope that helped.
Thanks.
Criticism. So that's Dr. John Gottman. He and his wife, Doctors John and Julie Gottman, they've been married for over 35 years, and they have researched thousands of couples in their practice. And when you sit before the therapist and you display criticism, you are basically attacking your spouse. You're saying to your spouse, you didn't do this, you are always like this, and it's you. Whereas it's not too much about me, but it's you. An example of criticism would be something like this. So say, for instance, your spouse was supposed to send you an email, right? So your other spouse said, you didn't send me the email. Well, the other spouse would say, well, yes, I did. Now, why is the spouse that sent that email feeling a certain way? One, because when the spouse said you didn't send the email, in a sense, you're attacking the character of your spouse. And you're saying to your spouse that you are inept and that you are a liar because you told me you were going to send the email and you did not. That does not feel good to be on the other end of that firing squad. So that a personal attack, you, rather than say, listen to this. Oh, I didn't see the email. Did you send it? And if you did, what time? So then the spouse would say, oh, I sent it around 10:30. Perhaps it's in your spam. Guess where the email is? In the spam. And you see the difference in the communication. Rather than attacking your partner and fueling whatever is already there, what you did was you asked your partner, in a sense, an open, closed question, in a sense. So rather than saying you didn't send me the email that you told me you were going to send, you had to do a check-in. All right, so what time did you send the email? Because I didn't see it. So now what you're doing is saying, I didn't see the email. You're putting the responsibility on yourself and you're not attacking the partner, your partner. And that's what criticism is. You're saying, I am better than you because you can't do this right, because you are so-and-so, so-and-so. And for the most part, like what Dr. Gottman said, you are defective. And that's what criticism is. That is the number one predictor of divorce. If you don't know how to, in a sense, fight fair, it's going to be detrimental to your family. And again, this 30-minute, 40-minute series that I'm talking about today, and then next week, we're going to have a guest. We're going to have the Allens on. You may not be able to get it if you have been doing this for such a long time. But that criticism is not good. Not good at all. So we're going to show a clip of the next one. What is the next one? I believe it's contempt.
You say another divorce predictor is contempt. Yes. I find this one really fascinating. Let's take a look at this tape.
Yeah, but a lot of the time, I already know what you're going to say. Oh, it'll be all right. Oh, we'll get through it. Oh, we'll make it. It'll be okay. Oh, I love you. Oh, I'm behind you.
All right. So that guy wouldn't even get up, by the way. He was so contemptuous. He was just laying back. So why is that so toxic?
Well, he's mocking her, right? So he's acting superior to her. And not only is contempt our best predictor of divorce in gay and lesbian relationships as well as heterosexual ones, because it's really this air of superiority. It's sulfuric acid for love. If you don't have respect in a relationship...
Sulfuric acid for love.
It really is. I mean, you need respect in a relationship. And contempt is disrespect. And it's also a predictor of how many infectious illnesses his wife is going to have in the next 4 years. It erodes the immune system.
Really?
It erodes the immune system.
Contempt erodes the immune system?
Absolutely. At Ohio State University, Jan Kiko Glazer and Ron Glazer have documented how T lymphocytes don't proliferate as much. Natural killer cells, which are cytotoxic against tumors, are not as effective in a relationship that has contempt and criticism in it.
Listen to that. Contempt. It is so damaging that it erodes your immune system, the person that is the target. It is mocking. You saw the gentleman mocking. Oh, the only thing you do in the house is do this. You only act like this. You only. That's contempt, because you're being very disrespectful. You're not owning up to your part in the situation, and you're looking at that person, belittling them, mocking them, and you don't see anything wrong with it. And that's why he says, Dr. Gottman, that is also a very, very high predictor of divorce. When you go around mocking your spouse based on your complaint, based on something that you're harboring within, that you're holding on for a long time, when you go around doing that with your spouse, what you're doing is you're killing your spouse slowly but surely, for her soul, her spirit, and that's what you're doing. And that is the goal. That is the goal of contempt. The goal of contempt is to remain in your superior stance in that relationship. It's awful. And then, did you really catch what he said? That it erodes your immune system because of the stress level that the person that's the target of it. It erodes immune because they can't say anything. How are you going to combat with that? Well, you can. You can say, oh, well, I see that this bothers you. So you know what? I'll really think about what I need to do so that it won't bother you in the future. You can say that, but you have to say that with a very sincere heart. But some people in an argument or whatever, they won't let it go. They just keep on and keep on and keep on provoking you to the point where you can become the next one, defensive. So let's show that clip.
Let's look at the third predictor of divorce is defensiveness in arguments. Take a look.
What do you mean I'm always watching TV? I'm working. Can I watch the news? You're always watching TV and the kids.
No, the TV is usually off.
I can't watch a little bit of TV.
Yeah.
So Dr. Gottman, defensiveness, why is that so toxic?
Well, the reason it's so toxic is that people are not taking responsibility for a part of the problem. And when the masters of relationships, instead of being defensive, take responsibility and say, well, so what's your point? I mean, it makes some sense what you're saying. Tell me more. And they take responsibility for even a small part of the problem, then, you know, you're kicking around the problem together. It's like you're playing soccer and kicking a ball around together. You're a team working on this joint problem.
So defensiveness is basically not a team effort. It's you versus me. So what you do in a sense, you meet a complaint with a counter complaint. So it's sort of like, well, you do this. Well, you do that. Well, you do this. Well, you do that. Nothing gets accomplished and no one is responsible for anything done. It's sort of like what he said. It's a tennis ping pong match. Like, boom, no, it's your fault. Boom, no, it's your fault. Boom, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. Boom. I mean, it is nothing gets done at all. No one takes full responsibility for anything at all. And defensiveness, in a sense, is a part of your pride because you don't want to appear wrong. You may not want to appear, that you had a hand in whatever it was. Rather than owning up to it, which sometimes you may have to, you become defensive. Now, also, it depends on how the person is speaking to you. So, are they doing it in attack mode? Like criticism. Are they doing it like that? And then the natural response to criticism is, I have to defend myself. Everyone wants to defend him or herself, right? That's what we do. We have been taught to defend ourselves, and we've been taught to defend ourselves in relationships to the point where it looks like that, where you just are name calling in a sense. You don't do this. Well, you don't do this. And you're taking tabs, but nothing is getting done. And then the last one really this is something that I think I do, and I tell you why. Let's go to the last one, which is stonewalling.
And the fourth predictor is stonewalling. Take a look. All right, so we all know what that is.
Right.
Is any one of these things a predictor of divorce?
Yeah, all of them sort of ride together. They're the four horsemen of the apocalypse. They're like in the book of Revelations. They spell the end of days. And stonewalling is really interesting because when we interview people who stonewall, 85% of our stonewallers in heterosexual couples are guys. Huh. And what predicts stonewalling is a heart rate above 100 beats a minute. And also, when we interview them about what they're thinking, they're really trying not to make it worse. They're saying to themselves, just shut up. You're going to make it worse. How long can she go on like this? She'll burn herself out. 10 minutes to the game, she can't touch me then. So the stonewaller is really trying to calm down and not make it worse. But when you're faced with somebody who's silent like that, you escalate. So it's a very destructive pattern.
Yes, guilty of the stonewalling. Guilty of stonewalling. And stonewalling is very detrimental because you emotionally withdraw. And for me, because growing up, I really didn't see toxic talk that much at all. I had to learn how to have an effective argument, so to speak, because I didn't want to fuel it any further, because it's like, okay, let me just be quiet. If I'm quiet, this person can say what they want to say, whatever, and I'm not going to make it worse. Or the thought is, you know what, this person doesn't know how to argue fair. So because this person doesn't know how to argue fair, I'm just going to shut down. I'm going to emotionally withdraw and not say anything at all and hope it passes. But however, it's damaging because you do not have the opportunity. You have it, but you don't take the opportunity to speak your piece in a constructive way. So if you don't speak your piece in a constructive way, what's going to happen with stonewalling is things are going to build up, 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 and then one day they're going to explode. And that is the danger with stonewalling. You saw that couple. 9 times out of 10, stonewallers look like this, like their arms are. They look away. They're not turned toward you. Their facial expression is just, they're thinking about someone else, somewhere else. They rather be not in your presence at all, because the only thing they're thinking about, and I'm going to be honest, shut your mouth, please. But they're not saying anything. So these are the 4 horsemen of communication. And like Dr. Gottman was saying, The reason why they call it the Four Horsemen, in the book of Revelation, you have these four horsemen, which signifies the end of days. And I tell people about the Bible, it's very interesting. The four horsemen, everything has already happened in the spiritual realm. We as humans right now in the physical realm are catching up to it. So these four horsemen, so you have different colors. So I'm going to get these colors because I took notes. So you have the white horse, which means conquest. They're taking over every single thing. So I attribute that to criticism. All right. Now I could be wrong, but this is how I attribute. All right. So then you have the red horse, which signifies war. War, war, war. We're not talking about rumors of war. We're talking about war. And that one signifies to me contempt. Oh, my goodness, my goodness. And then you have your third horseman, which is black, which is famine. Now, what do you think that is, famine, when you're withholding something? Stonewalling. Famine is no food. The entire earth, there will be a famine. It has already happened in the spiritual. We just have to catch up to it in the physical. But that's the black horse. And then the last one is the pale horse, which is a plague. That means disease all abound, disease all around us, every single thing. And in my opinion, that is defensiveness. But these four horsemen signify, like I said, the end of days. So if you find yourself in relationships and you are even at your job, if you find that you are overly critical, contemptuous, defensive, or stonewalling, these are toxic talk that could get you terminated. So it's sort of like a divorce from your job. So how do you flip the script and change your mindset about how am I going to speak with my partner? Because if I don't change my communication style, my family is going to be disrupted. I'm going to get a divorce. Dr. Gottman said between 85 and 90% of the couples that he has seen, and he's seen thousands of couples. And I'm not just talking about couples walking in and out of his office. I'm talking about counseling couples. And also what he did, he had couples in like a bed and breakfast. He hooked them up with devices, had cameras all around. Based on their communication style, he could predict if they were going to be masters versus disasters. We need master marriages right now, not disastrous ones. And I'm here to tell you, if you continue to speak toxic talk, that is where your marriage will end. So how do you change that toxic talk? One of the first things that Dr. Gottman talks about is the golden rule, and that's the 5-to-1 ratio. Does anyone know what the 5-to-1 ratio is? Anyone? I see Peace Mitchell said this is on point. Thank you, Peace Mitchell, for tuning in. So the golden rule of 5-to-1 is for every one negative thing that you do or say, you need 5 positive affirmations, either what you do or say. Now, the reason why it's 5-to-1, because that one negative thing that you do or say is so toxic. Example, if your spouse says basically, you're no one, you're sloppy, you're a liar, only thing you do is play mind games and all that, that's a negative. How are you going to counteract that? You have to counteract that with 5 positive affirmations or whatever. Now, the whatever could be touch, a feel, moving toward your partner, eye contact, things like that. But you have to do 5 of them. All right. And then number 2 is, this is very important, because some people who are married, they love one another, but they don't like each other. And when you don't like a person, it's very hard for you to go in and reestablish a friendship zone. And this is what Dr. Gottman was saying, that friendship zone is very important for marriage to last. Sometimes you have to dig and go back to that friendship zone. So what does that friendship zone look like? Number 1, he says a love map. Everyone in that relationship needs a love map. So what is your love map? What does a map do? If I have a map in my hand and I want to go travel from Newark, New Jersey to Washington, D.C., I look at that map. I'm very intentional about the pathway to get there. And the pathway to establish that friendship is based on a couple of things. Number 1 is based on fondness and admiration. You have to tell your spouse how great they are, how wonderful they are, how proud you are of them, that you love them. And if you were to remarry, you would do it again and again and again. But you have to sincerely mean that. It just can't be lip service. You have to mean it from the depth of your soul. And then the next one, which is very interesting, is called little bids. Little BIDS. And these are like, how can I put, little, let's see, little emotional connections, right? So Dr. Gottman talks about different types of connections. Number 1, you turn toward your partner. If you turn toward your partner, you're giving one another eye contact. Touching your partner is very, very important. And when I say touch, it doesn't have to be a full body massage. It can just be a pat on the hand, a pat on the shoulder, a pat on the leg, just touch. All right. So then the second one is turn away, which is not good. Turn away looks like this. When you're trying to connect with your partner and they're busy typing, they're, reading emails, they're so, they're not giving you eye contact. They're not paying you any attention whatsoever. So at that point, because you're trying to establish an emotional connection, you're kind of withering your partner's spirit and soul little by little by little. And you may not even realize it. And then the last one is you turn against your partner. And this is how that looks. When you turn against your partner may try to establish an emotional connection. And this is what you say: I don't have time for that. I don't have time. This is stupid. Why are you bothering me with that? That's turning against. So the key is turning toward your partner. And also, when you are in a heated debate or argument, let your partner know this is challenging. You know what? I think this may get heated. I need to take about 30 seconds to calm my nerves. And I have to think rationally, because oftentimes when we get in a heated conversation with someone, we react and we don't respond. Toxic talk is detrimental because oftentimes that's exactly what you do. You're responding. No, I'm sorry. You're reacting and not responding to the person with a clear head and a clear mind. So it's very interesting that they can predict divorce based on how you communicate. I think that's fascinating. Curtis, you have any questions?
No. I just wonder, like, how much people can use this outside of marriage as well. Like, for, like you were saying, with maybe even job relationships or just relationships in general, like using these communication tools and how to implement them.
Oh, yeah. So, say, for instance, let's look at the workplace. Okay. So, what if you are a manager, okay, and you have a staff, and you constantly tell your staff, you're very critical of them. You can't do this. Why can't you do that? How many times have I showed you? What is wrong with you? Now, do you think your staff will have the morale to want to go to work and work with you and to work for you?
No.
Not at all. Not at all. So rather than say, what is wrong with you? The manager can say, listen, is it possible that I can show you, or do you need help? Because it seems like, you know what, maybe I had a challenging time explaining it to you, or what are you getting or what are you not getting? Let me know.
Right.
And then the next one is contempt. Well, that is very, that's awful, because mocking like your staff or your coach, that's just, no, not at all. And contempt also can happen in the form of bullying, because a lot of bullies engage in that type of behavior. They mock, oh, look at so-and-so, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, I'm better than you. You know how damaging that is to someone's spirit. And then defensiveness. Oh, well, say for instance, you're a manager and you will say, Lisa, you didn't have my report done by 5. Me defensive. Well, you didn't tell me it was due by 5. It goes back and forth.
Right,
well,
right.
You didn't tell me it was due by 5. Well, I did tell you it was due by 5. Did you read the email that I sent you? Well, yes, but it wasn't very clear that it was due by 5 o'clock today. You didn't say when. It just goes back and forth. Rather than saying, you know what, my bad. You're right. It was due at 5. I apologize. I had something else that, happened, but I'll give it to you right away. And then stonewalling. Stonewalling, like I said, can be very dangerous because it builds up. So say, for instance, if you're working with staff and you want to complain in a sense, but you're just, you know what, I'm going to keep the peace. I'm going to keep the peace. And then that person is persistently doing the same toxic behavior over and over and over. But you're going to say, I'm going to keep the peace. I'm not going to say anything. What's going to happen to you is you're going to say, I'm going to keep the peace. I'm going to keep the peace. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. And then it's going to escalate within you. And that other person has absolutely no idea what you're thinking.
Right. Now,
and that's how a lot of people, in a sense, go postal. Yeah, really. Yeah. Because they have this built up anxiety that, maybe they told someone, but it wasn't the right person that they told, but they're so frustrated that they feel that that's the only thing they can do is harm their coworkers and staff.
Now, see, maybe that relates a little bit to what I was about to ask you, though. Do you think, though, sometimes, well, obviously, it's necessary for some people to get a divorce. They shouldn't be together, right? Like you try to find somebody, they're not that good person that you wanted or needed or whatever that was supposed to be in your life. They end up being a toxic person. So, like, obviously, you can't, like, every relationship can't be repaired. So sometimes a divorce is necessary. But even with that concept, do you think it should be the same way in a sense with like friends and even just certain relationships, in the sense of where you formally end your friendship with somebody, or do you think it's just like not talk to them no more and you just kind of leave it up in the air, and then the other shoe never dropped or whatever? Like, do you think it's important to maybe formally divorce yourself from other kinds of relationships too, just besides a marriage?
Absolutely. Toxic talk is toxic talk. So toxicity, it doesn't stop because it's not a marriage. Toxic talk doesn't stop because it's just only relegated to spouse, and whatever. So say for instance, you may have a buddy who criticizes you, who's contemptuous, and that's your communication style. It's toxic. And you have to separate, just like what he said about contempt. It erodes the immune system. So the person that's on the other end of that, they're so stressed out that you're now, listen to this, you're so stressed out based on what that person is projecting onto you that it is changing your cellular structure inside your body, whereas your immune system cannot fight off disease as it ought. That's some serious stuff. And it's not only relegated to the spouse. So say, for instance, if I had a friend who is very contemptuous toward me, the same thing will happen. Now, a spouse is different because it could be even more because you're in that presence, you're in the presence of the spouse almost every single day. Whereas your friend, you may talk to your friend once, twice, 3 times a month, but this is the person that you're sharing your bedroom with. This is the person that you're sharing your house with. This is a person that you're sharing intimate moments with. This is the person that has seen a child come out of your body, if you have children. So the level of intensity is going to be far more superior in a sense with married couples as opposed to platonic friends.
Right. But at the same time, a work relationship though too might have another kind of impact, because it's like you might have to be around somebody 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You know what I mean? Like, so you might have to be around this person constantly, or a manager that's constantly criticizing you, using contemptuous language to describe your work ethic and stuff, and never taking any type of criticism, being defensive, all the things that you talked about with the toxic talk.
Now, the wonderful thing about the work is you can, in a sense, record what has happened and you can take it up further to HR. So you need a moderator. So that's why the therapists are there also. So the therapist would act like that moderator, because what you want to do in any work environment, you want the best workers so that your revenue can increase. It's very expensive onboarding new staff. And that's not what employers want to do. Employers want everyone to operate in peace so that it's a profitable organization. Profitable revenue-wise, profitable, people are learning, profitable, whatever. So the main goal, of course, HR is looking out for the best interest of the company, but still within that, they look at it as, okay, this could be a win-win situation because all the staff are operating in a peaceful manner. And when you are operating in a peaceful manner, you're doing your work without distractions. You're doing your work without drama. You're doing your work without this toxic culture. And based on that, you can be more profitable.
Right. But see, at the same time, I guess it's kind of sometimes the manager's fault if you have an environment where, they're mistreating workers, or like you guys have that toxic environment. I guess it's a management thing, or like a lack of training somewhere. Like somebody's not properly trained.
Well, that's the same with marriage. We're not properly trained to communicate effectively and to fight fair. Like you really don't get trained on that. Like, who trains us how to talk, and argue in a fair way? Like, I know I wasn't trained like that. I wasn't trained like that. I was only trained like that via going to school
I was gonna
and
say
getting my degree
school.
in counseling.
Yeah, like I was gonna say maybe school teaches you that with like how to debate and how to make your arguments and stuff like that without.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you major in certain things,
Yeah.
but say for instance, if you major in like computer science,
Yeah,
that's
but
not
debate and stuff like that, they're just basically going to tell you how to win arguments. They're not going to tell you how to be fair and all that stuff.
right. Because just because you win doesn't mean that it's
Yeah.
fair.
Right. Or it's right or anything
Or
like
it's
that.
right. Exactly. You can kind of win the argument. Say, for instance, if the person that you are projecting that anger to is stonewalling, you can say, well, I won that argument because they didn't have anything to say. I mean,
right. And at the end of the day, you didn't get anywhere or anything like that. You didn't accomplish anything. You vented your anger on this person, showing your contempt and criticism of them. But it didn't change anything. You're going to be in the same situation tomorrow. And
it's going to be worse because
Yeah.
it fuels. So what happens is it heightens the anxiety. It fuels, it can be very dangerous because, say, for instance, it's like you do something, right? And then that toxicity comes in. It gets bigger. Toxicity. So now your black hole for that person has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because of the things that they have projected. And because of the things that you didn't project in a positive way. So it's very important to have open-ended questions. Like when I was saying about criticism, when the person said, you didn't send the email. Well, I did send the email. So, perfect example. Person says, you didn't send the email. The person that's on the other end can say, I sent it around so-and-so. Maybe check your spam and see if it's there. And then check your spam and it's there.
But they were still wrong they were still wrong for criticizing you.
They were still wrong, but you didn't feed into it. And you didn't escalate it. So you didn't feed into it. You just said, oh, well, you see what I did? I took responsibility. Oh, well, all right. So maybe it's in spam because you sent it.
Yeah. I don't know if they learned their lesson fully. The other person didn't necessarily learn their lesson, though.
Well, you know what? Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. The big person would say, oh, I got it. Thank you. I apologize.
Yeah, right. But they, this
but a
going to be
lot
the
of
next thing to
people
criticize.
nowadays, there's this whole thing that you don't have to apologize to people. Because at that point, I want people to realize this. When you are overly critical with someone, you are breaking and tearing down their spirit. And I think that's why Beyonce's song was so powerful.
What?
The one about you're not gonna break my soul. You don't break my. What did she say?
Okay, good. I'm not a Beyonce fan. I don't know what you say with Beyonce.
Something about you don't break my soul. You're not something. I'm telling everybody. Is she talking
about Jay-Z and stuff? Is that what she talking about?
I don't know. She could be. I don't know. But basically, that was an anthem. You're not going to break my soul. Because those moments when you are trying to emotionally connect and your partner doesn't understand that you're trying to emotionally connect, they turn away or they turn against, that's chipping away at your soul and your spirit. And that's what happens. You feel so defeated. And then the thing that your partner accuses you of, that's what you ultimately will become. You will think that you are a failure. You would think that you're no good for nothing. You would think all of these things because it has been projected onto you because you're at a point where you don't know how to counteract that in a healthy way. But it takes a lot of practice. Like I said, oftentimes we react and not respond.
Right. Well, you know what? Before you wrap things up for tonight, let's just give our sponsor a quick shout out.
Yes.
Okay.
We have Felicia. We have my source, Cynthia. Good evening. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that blue. Look at that. Getting ready.
Of course, you love the blue.
Yes. I got my little.
Jessica Burns.
Jessica Burns. Good evening, Jessica and Felicia. Oh, thank you. Good evening. And Nas, thank you. That's my family right there. Nas, I tell you, thank you for joining into the Urban Suite. And if this is your first time, you are now officially an Urbanite.
Yes. That's right.
All right. So we are back. Listen, next week we are having the Allens in the Urban Suite. I'm so excited. They have written a book, Intentional Foreplay. I love that. Intentional Foreplay, because you have to be intentional. So it's sort of like with communicating. You have to be intentional about communicating in a healthy way, communicating without name calling, communicating without using profanity, communicating without stonewalling, without being contemptuous, without being critical, and without being defensive. Sometimes we just have to own up to our stuff and say, you know what? My bad. You're right. I will do better. And just let it go. Now, some people, like I said, they just keep on and on and on and on trying to provoke you. But you got, at that point, there's nothing you can do about that. They'll learn and they'll get it in time. You just have to show them what it means to have good communication tools and skills. So again, if someone is criticizing you, you can call it out and say, you know what? It sounds like you're being overly critical and you're using this one example to label me, and I feel like you're attacking me. And just call it, I feel like you're attacking me. And that will make them think. And then contemptuous, you can say the same thing. Basically, I think I got how you feel, but I think mocking me is making me feel a little deflated right now. So at all possible, let's have a decent conversation without you mocking me. Because again, that's making me feel very deflated. Now, if your spouse loves you and respects you, something in them will trigger like, oh, okay. All right. And then defensiveness. Defensiveness is don't kick the ball back and forth. To the point, though, you don't want to stonewall. So defensiveness, you can say, you know what? I see your point. That was not my intention, and I apologize. Leave it. And then stonewalling is basically having the ability to say those things and not keep quiet, to speak your truth in a safe, wonderful environment to your spouse. So those are the 4 toxic talks that are predictors of divorce: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. If you find yourself doing that over and over and over again, you really need to change the way you communicate, the way you speak with one another, and then also establish that friendship zone. Have your love map. What and where do you want to go with your love map? Do you want to go with your love map to divorce court? Or do you want to go with your love map till death do us part? You can make that determination. And in that, you definitely want to be and show admiration to your spouse. I love you. Sometimes I tell my husband, and I'll say it like this, because I love surprising my husband. I'll say, guess what? And he'll think I'm saying something else. I was like, I love you. Like I am not going to say, oh, I love you all the time. I'll just say, guess what? Like in the middle of a movie, in the middle of something, or guess what? And you're like, what? Because he probably think I've got some kooky idea. I love you, and I just say it. I say it, and you have to show how fond you are and that you admire. And then you have to have these little bits. That means that emotional connection. Emotional connection. Sometimes I think this cell phone is the root of all evil when it comes to relationships, because we get so caught up emailing. We get so caught up texting. We get so caught up doing all these things, and we're not paying attention to our spouse when they're trying to make an emotional connection. But what you can do is, if you see that your spouse is turning away or turning against you when you're trying to make that emotional connection, you can just say, oh, honey, I was just, trying to make an emotional connection with you. I see you're busy right now. And then your spouse will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I had a rough day. I did this. This is so-and-so, so-and-so. This just came in on my phone, whatever. But at the end of the day, your spouse will say, you know what? Forgive me. I'm so sorry. You're right. And then another thing about relationships that is not here, but I just thought about it. You do not want to go to bed angry. Whatever argument you have, whatever disagreement you have, however you think about your spouse, do not sleep and harbor that bitter pill. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go to bed with that anger in your head. That sounds like a rhyme, right? Don't go to bed with that anger in your head. No, no, no. Don't do it. And the reason why you shouldn't do it is because it's going to fester. It's going to fester. And the more you keep that anger, the larger it grows. And it's something that my husband said last week. If that anger grows to your spouse, guess what you're going to do? You're going to be distracted and look someplace else. You're going to look for someone else to give you that comfort. You're going to look somewhere else to give you that comfort. And that's what will happen. And that's why people in marriages oftentimes commit adultery, because they harbor these feelings. They don't know how to speak. They don't know how to talk in a healthy way. And they harbor. And then the right person with the right look, with the right smile, with the right wink, and that's all she wrote. And then you end up in a situation with an adulterous relationship. So listen, this was very interesting. What do you think, Curtis?
Yes, I think that's you got to the points there and you wrapped it up pretty well.
That's right. So on that note, thank you for coming into the Urban Suite again with me, Dr. Lisa LaCon. I need you to share. I need you to like. I need you to tag people. I'm on Facebook. I am on Urban Twos for Change Facebook. I'm on my personal Facebook. I'm on Dad's. I'm on Blessed Ministries Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on audio, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And don't forget, next week, the Allens will be in the Urban Suite talking about intentional foreplay and the non-negotiables that you need to have before you make that commitment. So again, I thank you, and we will be back next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Urban Suite, where you laugh, learn, cry, and grow. And on that note, Molly, take us away and enjoy your 4th.